Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
And welcome in, baseball fans. This is John with PureAdrenaline Sports.
Thank you for all the support and enthusiasm you gave us throughout this entire year.
All right.
You rode the roller coaster right there with us. You were there every step of the way. And down the stretch, you packed the house and gave the players the encouragement they needed
of Behind the Bag
to get us into the playoffs and then have a pretty special run. Collectively, we experienced and we created.
So I wanted to be episode 1 to do about David Stearns and the end of the season press conference that he gave, some of the questions that he was asked and stuff like that. Let me know your comments and thoughts on anything I say or anything that Stearns has to say as well. So the first thing is Stearns put out this little video on Twitter or X, and let's listen to what he had to say there before we dive into the press conference.
Hey, Mets fans, thank you for all the support and enthusiasm you gave us throughout this entire year. You rode the roller coaster right there with us. You were there every step of the way. And down the stretch, you packed the house and gave the players the encouragement they needed to get us into the playoffs and then have a pretty special run. Collectively, we experienced and we created some really special moments and memories that we'll all take with us for a long time. I hope you guys have a great offseason. The countdown to pitchers and catchers has begun, and looking forward to seeing you there.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks for everyone for...
All right, so this one hurts, absolutely. Yes, it was a great season overall for the Mets. Did we expect them to get to the National League Championship Series? I'm going to say no. I thought the Mets would fight for the last wild card spot, but I thought they would have just missed out on that last wild card spot with things to do to improve coming into year 2 of David Stearns, right? But yeah, like he said, there's lots of work to do. We'll get into some of those questions that he's got, but yeah. This one hurts. This one did hurt. Losing to the Dodgers the way they did. Not only great to get there, but really non-competitive in a lot of the 4 losses there. So let's get into the press conference. We'll go over some of the questions. I did not hear who all the questions were from. I know the first one was from Anthony DiComo on the challenges maintaining the identity of this ball club with at least 10 free agents on the books. So let's hear what Stearns has to say.
Growing up this afternoon, I'll say a few words and then happy to take any questions. I think whenever the season ends, it's not a lot of fun. It stings. It still stings for me right now, and it will for a little while. And it should. That means we care about it. That means we're doing something important. That means we made it far enough for it to really hurt.
Right, and that's why it stings, right? Because we care about it. Absolutely, and you guys showed that you cared about Mets baseball, just not only by watching with me, but all your comments. I try to read all the comments during the live streams, so I know there's some more positive than others. Some of us are more negative than others. I would say I'm on the negative side of things when it comes to the Mets on a daily basis. I know they're not going to win every game, but I want them to win every game. So let's continue. Let's see here. Oh, now he gets into the question from the Como about the free agents heading into this year.
I also am keenly aware that nothing is predetermined. Our success this year does not mean anything for our success next year.
And that's another reason why this hurts. I know I'm going to keep interrupting, stop and starting them here, but you never know, right? 2015, we get to the World Series, lose to the Royals. 2016, the Mets do go back to the playoffs, but then that's it. It's been eight years since the Mets got to the playoffs, and only, I believe, 2 or 3 times in their history now have they made it to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. So we'll see, hopefully, how 2025 turns out. But, yeah, let's continue wrapping up this season here.
We've got work to do. I'm energized by that work as an organization. We feel like we're in a really good spot, and we're ready to go. Yeah, so every year is going to be different, and the formula is different every single year. The mix is different every single year. That's also an opportunity for us to continue to grow and get better. There are also some key core elements that we can carry forward. The passion with which we played, the fun with which we played, along with the seriousness with which
like the passion and fun. That's a big thing that changed around this year for the Mets, right? Now they were 11-22 at one point, and then still in June, still 11 games under 500. They bring up Vientos. They bring up, Mr. OMG names Iglesias, man, and things seem to turn around as far as the team identity went. Not necessarily. It didn't change things right around win and loss wise, but yeah, the identity of the team, they were much more relaxed, and you could see that in wins or losses. So let's get back to Stearns.
we pursued winning and competed. Those can be constants. Those should be constants, even if the formula and the mix on the field is a little bit different.
Right, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Right now, 10 free agents coming up for the Mets. We'll go over, I have a chart here where who's going to be at what position next year. We'll get into that at the end of the presser. But, going to be a lot of changes next year. So as much as we loved the 2024 team, the 2025 team is going to look a lot different. I believe he goes into Pete Alonso heading into free agency was the next question.
Pete's a great Met. He was right out there right before I came in. I told him I was about to answer a lot of questions about him. He told me good luck. He's a great Met. I hope we have him back. I think we both understand this is a process, and everyone's got their own interests. And Pete deserves to go out into the free agent market and see what's out there, and then ultimately make the best choice for him and his family.
Right, that's a key thing we have to remember with free agents, right? Like some of our guys that we've gone to keep around, DeGrom left, so you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know if Pete. Now everything everybody's saying, it sounds like Pete wants to be back. It sounds like the Mets want him back, but they're going to let him test that free agency market, and it sounds like they're going to. The Mets have said, you know what, you go out, test it, come back to us with what you got, and we'll see where we stand. So. I agree with that because I think that doesn't. This way, the Mets don't have to wait for other free agency moves. Because we're going to need some starting pitchers, we're going to need some more outfielders, maybe some infielders as well. So we'll see. We'll see where things go with Pete. I would love him back. I know I was sour on him for most of the year, but that home run in Milwaukee completely changed my mind about Pete Alonso. And Alonso had a great playoffs besides the home run in Milwaukee. So. Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. After he wraps up with Pete, they ask him about bringing in a GM, as he's the president of baseball operations. They ask him about bringing in a general manager under him.
Have you made a decision on whether or not you will hire a GM this time?
I have not made a firm decision. I'm not eager to do it. I think we've got a good group in place here. I'm pleased with the performance that our front office has had. In general, I think we've got a nice leadership team going. If someone were to become available that I think would be really tough to pass up, then I'd certainly consider it. But we're not going to go through and entertain a huge search process here because I think we've got a pretty good group going.
He's then asked about the coaching staff. Now, I have to look a little bit deeper into it. I don't know if the Mets technically have two hitting coaches. Now, I know there's a hitting coach and there's coaches under him, but it always sounded to me like there were two guys in charge of that, and I didn't like that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do with the coaching staff. Then he's asked about the starting rotation. This is the questions you didn't know which direction the questions were going to go. He was then asked about the starting rotation and where he sees guys like Peterson, McGill, and Buto.
At the end of every season, by practice, we're going to go through a little bit of an organizational evaluation period. We're going through that right now, and so not at the point where I can make any declarative statements. I'll say that I was pleased by and large with the performance of our Major League staff, and I think we have a lot of good coaches. I think we'll see how the offseason evolves and where we are in spring training and beyond. And I think one of the things we saw this year and continue to learn is that roles evolve over the course of the season, and a particular pitcher may be a starter in one segment of the season and then pitching high leverage innings out of the bullpen in another. And it could go the other way as well.
Which we saw, right? Peterson, Buto, definitely. I believe Buto had a couple starts at the beginning of the year, then went to the pen. Peterson in the playoffs was a man out of the pen as well as McGill. So, but he's not against putting those guys back in the rotation either, which Peterson, I believe, deserves to be in the rotation.
Well, so all three of those players have demonstrated the ability to both start and relieve at the major league level. And sitting here a couple days after our season just ended, I'm certainly not in a position where I can say what role they're going to fill on our team come spring training or even the regular season.
He's then asked about Ronnie Mauricio, and I, as a big fan of Mauricio, I was not thrilled with this answer, but it'll be a big reason why or why not. I think Alonso might or might not be back.
I think step one for Ronnie is we need to get him doing baseball activities. We're now working on close to a year without baseball activities.
Yeah, that's what surprised me. A year without baseball activities. I mean, that's not good. So we'll see. We'll see going into. I expected him to be the everyday third baseman this year. Now it turns out Vientos can do that, and we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Vientos gets switched over to first, like he said before. But let's keep going here with the Mauricio.
And so, that's our goal as an organization. I do think we're making progress. It has definitely gone a lot slower than we expected. But we need to get him on the field doing baseball activities, and then we can start thinking about what that position distribution might look like.
He's then asked about the opportunity and the challenges with financial flexibility, right? The richest owner in baseball. Not to say they're going to go out and spend like they did a couple years ago to get all those big guys, but this is really the first time Stearns has been with an owner that's going to spend money.
I think we'll cross that bridge when or if we come to it. I think Mark demonstrated the ability to play third base. Did a great job this year. At this point, heading into the offseason, I'm certainly not going to speculate or comment on any sort of positional switch. Yeah, we've got financial flexibility. It means that pretty much the entirety of the player universe is potentially accessible to us. That's an enormous opportunity. I envision us taking advantage of that opportunity and being aggressive in certain spaces. We also have to recognize that we want to set up our organizational pattern so that we can invest in free agency, invest where we think we need to complement the club on an annual basis. So you're right. We have a lot of money coming off the books. I would expect us to spend some of that, a good portion of that, to complement our team, to improve our team heading into next year. We're also not going to do anything that hamstrings us in future years and prevents us from continually adding, supplementing to our core group.
I like that answer there. We're not going to do anything that's going to take away. Now, not to say they're not going to go out and get Soto, because I believe Soto is that one player that you give the years and the money to. But they're not going to do that. It doesn't sound like they're going to do that for aging pitchers anymore. And that's what he was known for in Milwaukee, right? He gave guys deals, made them earn it, and then if he felt like they deserved another contract, gave it to him. And if not, he replaced guys in the rotation all the time. So he's not going to go out and overspend just to get a guy here. But they do have the money to go out and build this team. I believe the Mets have like $180 million in salary coming off the books. So if he thinks they're going to spend most of that, I mean, that's a lot of free agents. Even if you sign Alonso, say even Alonso at the high is going to be $30 million, and Soto, I mean, what's that? Not even half of your free agency money going into two guys.
Yeah, I think we continue to progress in the right direction.
Talking about the farm
I think we're a little bit
here.
deeper than we were probably 1 year ago today. Part of that's through continued development of some internal players, and part of that's because we added a whole nother draft class, which is always helpful. We had a lot of injuries in our system this year on the position player front, and so I'm not sure we saw the amount of position player development at the top of the system that maybe we anticipated at the front of the season. But these guys are still good players. Some of them are playing in the fall league right now to get more at-bats under their belt. And I would imagine a number of those players from a position player perspective who are generally towards the top of our organizational prospect rankings have a chance to really impact a major league team next year.
Yeah, I like that answer. But then I also have, we got to remember, I know they did rebuild the farm system, but I'm not going to be surprised if they package some of those guys to go out get some players that might be under contract for longer periods of time. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Pete. I think the Mets are going to wait at first base to see what happens with Pete, and then maybe go out and get a guy like Christian Walker if they want to go the free agency route. But what would you guys think about packaging some of the prospects together and going out and get a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? You know, I don't know if Toronto would do that, but why not? So let me know what you guys think down below about going to get somebody like that with using some of our farm system, or if you want to keep building up the farm system heading into next season as well. And once again, he did say they do have their first draft class under him as well, so we got to keep an eye on all those young guys coming in this year as well. The next question was about team chemistry, so let's hear what Stearns has to say about team chemistry.
Chemistry is really important. Having guys who play hard, I think who genuinely enjoy coming to the ballpark is very important. It's not always the easiest thing to predict. It's not always the easiest thing to know exactly how a group of players is going to respond to one another. I think as an organization, there are certain things we can do to help encourage that, to be positive, to put players in the best position to succeed. But at the end of the day, it is something that's a challenge a little bit to know exactly how a group is going to mesh.
Then he's asked about Mendoza as well.
I think we took a positive step for the organization. We believed all along that we had the ability to compete for a playoff spot, have an exciting September, October.
I'm sorry. Feelings on 2024.
I think that is certainly a positive. I think behind the scenes, under the hood, we put some things in place that will serve us well going forward. Still some work to do in those areas as well. And now it's our responsibility to keep it going. We enjoyed this run. Our fan base enjoyed this run. We have great memories from this run. It's also time for us to begin to move forward and see what we can do to build on this to ensure we have the type of sustainable competitiveness, true sustainable competitiveness that's eluded this organization for a long time.
What I love about Cohen and Stearns, not only being the owner and president of baseball operations, these guys are Met fans. These guys absolutely love the Mets before they had anything to do with the organization. So now you got the guy owning the team that absolutely loves this team, and you know he's going to want to see it win. And the guy that's making all the moves at the top right now also grew up being a Mets fan. So you know he's going to want to do everything to make this team successful as well. So I love the way this team is heading. Now he gets into question about Mendoza.
Yeah, Mendy did a tremendous job. And we talked about this throughout the season, just the consistency that he presented himself, his ability to be the same person every day, regardless of what was going on. And that was true when he and I were by ourselves in his office talking through things, and it was true when he was out here in front of you and the cameras. It was the same person, and it was a lot of fun.
Right, and that's the type of guy I want in charge. A guy that's going to be level-headed all the time. Now, you guys have been hanging out in our live streams during that game, so you know roller coaster, right? I'm up and down. 1 minute I'm yelling at a player, next minute I'm loving that player. So Mendoza's the perfect guy, nice and level. Stay there. I saw an interview SNY did with Mendoza and Terry Collins. Absolutely loved that interview. Make sure you guys go check that out as well. So I know he's got things to learn being a first-year manager, but I absolutely loved the first year from Mendoza. So let's see. I believe the bullpen was the next topic.
Yeah, bullpens are tricky, and I talked about that a lot. That the bullpens evolve over a course of the year. The bullpen's likely to look different in August, September than it does in April, May, and for us that was certainly the case. I think ideally you'd have a little bit more continuity from start to finish in a pen. I didn't really anticipate turning over 80% of the bullpen over the course of the year, but that's where we got to. But I do think we have some arms that emerged this year that can complement Edwin, that can be stabilizing forces in our bullpen next year and going forward. And then, we're going to have to add some pieces as well.
They touched on a couple things. The trade market, he really didn't. He just gave short, quick answers on that. He said if that's the best for the team, they'll absolutely be involved in the trade market. They expect it to be a normal offseason for Senga. So him coming back, he was very. We know Senga wasn't able to do much once he came back, but the Mets, in terms of Senga's future, were happy he was able to come back, get a couple starts under his belt, and now he'll have a full offseason, a full workload, like a regular normal offseason for a pitcher. So great to hear there. A couple more things. Next step to success.
It's interesting. If you look at the four teams that were the Final Four this year in baseball, all constructed a little differently. And I think if we go back and look at World Series teams over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, all constructed a little differently. So what I continue to take to that is there's no one way to construct a championship caliber team. And teams at the beginning of the year, what we think are their strengths, what we think are their weaknesses, can often morph and evolve by the time you get to October. So I continue to believe that depth is incredibly important. I continue to believe that you're going to need an army to get through a major league season. We learned this year you need an army to get through a playoff series and a deep postseason run. These are incredibly taxing on players. And so I think it's difficult to take any hard and fast rules by looking at the teams that have gotten deep in the postseason, but putting rosters that fit well together, having depth, all those things I think are important.
Yeah, those things are important. So, man, going to be a fun offseason. He talks about Alvarez as well, some of the emotional aspects of the game as well. So let's wrap up this press conference, and then we'll start looking forward to what the Mets starting fielders might look like heading into next season.
We're all emotional. I mean, so yes, and there are emotion parts to me as well. We all want to do really well. It's really difficult to strip away all emotion as you do these things. Certainly, we try to implement processes that help us with that keep us honest.
Right, it's difficult, right? Especially to me as a fan. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but even though I'm hanging out, doing a live stream, watching you guys chat and talking about everything going on, it's still, I don't know, it's still emotional to me. Love baseball. Baseball is what made me fall in love with sports. So And when an unexpected season like this happens, just makes it even that much more fun.
But Steve grew up a Met fan. I grew up a Met fan.
Yeah, I touched on that before.
That's always going to be a part
They
of
grew
us.
up Met fans. Yep.
Look, I think Alvy had a
yep.
if we take it in its encapsulation, a nice season for a young catcher in his second year in the big leagues, who we ask a lot of, not only offensively, but from a leadership and game planning perspective. And so I think he's kind of where you would expect him to be from a developmental standpoint for a young budding superstar. And I still think he is. In terms of the growth, I think it's incrementally getting better on both sides of the ball, understanding what opposing pitchers are trying to do to you. And I think he began to understand that as we got towards the end of the year. Behind the plate, being able to slow the game down a little bit, ensuring that we have a full understanding of how we want to attack hitters. And these are very normal developmental goals for young catchers. And I think he's done a tremendous job to get to where he is right now. Look, I think first and foremost, we have talented players. And so what allowed us to go on a run is we have talented players who played really well.
Yeah, sorry. This was the last one. He was asked about what led to the Mets going on this great run.
And held themselves accountable. Our coaching staff did a great job of putting them in positions to be successful, continuing to stay positive, and it clicked, and we went on a great run. And look, there are a number of reasons why it ended when it did. I think we probably ran out of gas a little bit. We had pushed our guys really hard from June 1st on because we needed to. Every single game in the regular season mattered, and then clearly every single game in the postseason mattered. And that's part of it. And we also ran into a really, really talented Dodgers team that was playing about as good a baseball as you could play in the 6-game stretch where we got them.
Yeah, so Dodgers were playing good baseball at the right time. They looked horrendous the first couple of days against the Padres, and then absolutely turned it around. Stayed on fire against the Mets, Game 2 was last night, and the Dodgers have a 2-0 lead heading to the Bronx for games 3, 4, and 5 there. So, yes, does it suck we lost? Yes, but it looks like we lost to the team that's halfway to winning the World Series. So, man, what a season, guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts on what Stearns had to say. And let's take a look here real quick at what the Mets starting defensive alignment might look like next season here. So right now I have Kodai Senga slated as the opening day starting pitcher. We probably all would have thought that coming into the year this season as well if he was healthy. So Alvarez doing the catching. But then we got some question marks. We got, not really question marks. We got Lindor at short. We know that'll happen. Nimmo probably in left. Nimmo could move back to center. But let's look here. Let's see what we got. What's going to happen at first base? Alonso, you can move Vientos over there. Do you go outside the organization to bring somebody else in? Do you trade some of your prospects? McNeil and Acuna at second. Who's getting the start there? You could rotate those guys either way. With McNeil still being under contract as well, and they all could play other positions as well. So if somebody needs a day off, you can switch, especially McNeil. You could switch McNeil out to left field or right field as well. And then what to do at third? Is Mauricio still not back to baseball activity? So how healthy is he going to be come spring training? So you can keep Vientos there if you want. Do you go outside the organization and bring somebody like Bregman in? I would not bring Bregman in. I would keep Vientos there and go different first baseman if Alonso doesn't want to come back. But let me know your guys' thoughts. In center field, Taylor's not going to be an everyday player, so you're going to have to get another center fielder. Is that bringing in Harrison Bader back? You can move Nimmo to center and bring in another left fielder there as well. And then what do you do in right field? Right, Marte's on his last year of his deal in 2025. Do you go get somebody like Soto? Do you go get somebody like Anthony Santander? Like that? Brent Rooker maybe for the outfield as well. He could DH as well. So lots of things to do in the offseason, guys. Let me know what your thoughts would be on the Mets starting defense next year. And thank you for listening in to episode 1 of the Behind the Bag podcast. We'll do some more of these. Episode 2 is going to be we look at the Mets batters and pitchers, where I did projections for all those players. We'll see how accurate where I was in making those projections for the players. So that'll be episode 2 here when I can get to record that. But leave a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, and we will see everybody in the next one.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag.